Well, today is Monday, as far as I know, and I'm happy to say that Pat McCart is joining me. Well, Pat, nice to go
How
on.
are you, Jude? It's a nice cold day, but at least the sun's shining. Yesterday, Jude, I thought I should invest in a boat rather than a car because there was that much rain.
Oh, yes.
We went out for a wee while yesterday, and there was floods everywhere.
Yeah, I was out for a walk earlier today, and I see the fields alongside, huge bloody pools of water, unbelievable. Anyway, sure, we shouldn't be complaining. We're damn near.
We should be
we're damn near
to
at
be
the
alive.
winter solstice in a week's time.
Yes, hey, Jude,
is it the 19th and 21st?
21st. This day week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. 14 and 7. Yeah, 20. This day week is the shortest day and the longest night, and after that, things start changing. Psychologically, that's brilliant.
Well, I'll tell you something now. See, since COVID, I haven't found any of the days long. And that's nothing to do with the darkness and so on.
Yeah.
I haven't found any of the days long. Every day has sped past. Have you found that?
Collins, you must be a hermit because they are long.
Really?
Jude, hold on, Jude. At about 4 o'clock, it is now dark, and this northern part of and that makes for a very long night. Now, I read a book, and I might watch someone on TV, but still a long night.
What time do you go to bed?
That's a very bad question because some nights I sit up to maybe 1 o'clock.
Well, there you are. You see, you're only yourself to blame. I go to bed about 10:30. But anyway, let's get down to more serious matters here. You were drawing my attention to the fact that since COVID broke, there have been a lot of notable people who have, as they say, left us.
Yeah.
You want to tell us?
No, Jude, it was my son pointed out to me the other day. He says, geez, Dad, there's a whole lot of people dying that never died before type thing. But there's a point there. Like this morning, just sat up and I just noticed Jared Hooley, who was the manager of Liverpool. He died. Right. Nobby Stiles died. Charlie Pride died on, I think, was it Friday night? Mm-hmm. Jack Charlton's died this year. The list of people who, Dwight Yoakam died earlier on, who was quite a good country singer. The number of people who have died. Now, Jude, whether they're related to COVID, but Jack Charlton, the Irish manager and all that, like there was actually tears, genuine tears right across a good part of this island when Jack passed away because he brought a joy and a happiness and a unity in a way that we hadn't seen before in this island. Someone we could all enjoy. And you sort of sit and, what does all this mean? Does it affect us as a human beings? When our heroes die, it's a thought that occurred to me. I'm now of a certain age that there was a Mayo man I knew who said they're taking them from our shelf now.
Well, the line I heard was they're picking them out of our pen now.
Well, it's the same idea.
I think that's at the heart of it, Pat. We are aware of our own mortality. If we hear people die, I don't read the Irish news, but I know a lot of people who only buy the Irish news so they can go through the obituary column. I've never done that, but I must say, whenever somebody dies, a notable person dies, I'll invariably check what age they were. And I was, distressed to see that Jared Hooley was only 72 or something like that.
But by the way, I forgot. Sorry for cutting across you, but there was two massive exceptions left out there. Maradona, and of Argentina, who was there a more iconic goal scored anywhere this last 100 years, and Paulo Rossi. The guy who scored a hat-trick against Brazil. Jude, I watched those games. I was young. They were, well, it wasn't 14 or anything, but, they were right in the peak of my life, and they were massive moments. And those are all icons of my generation who are now disappearing fast.
I think it's the fact that, they are heroes. And when you think of them at their best, as you say, scoring the hat-trick or leading a team to victory, or even a glorious draw, another glorious draw, because of Jack Charlton. Excuse me. But and to see those people swept, there's a sort of a part of me anyway that half believes that mortality doesn't apply to really people like that. Shouldn't. Like it's like thinking they're so globally famous and so wonderful. Surely the Grim Reaper will make an exception in their case. But
Aye.
that doesn't happen, And you also, as
Aye.
you say, Pat, you have a sense too eventually that all or most of the big names, the people that flourished in my day, as they say,
Yeah.
that's over. That's over.
Yeah.
Time has moved on. And along with them, you're shuffled. I mean, you're not thinking of dying, I'm sure, but you're shuffled off the main stage, as it were, to the wings.
Yeah.
And another generation has taken over.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard.
Jude, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but at one stage, because maybe the word was more, I don't think unified is the right word, but like there was Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Elvis Presley, those, you name, John Wayne, all these stars. Now, like I see films and these people are big, and if you asked me their names, I wouldn't know them. The whole, and like remember in the golden era when there was sort of 2-channel TV, you get 28 million from Markham and Wise or whatever it was, 25 million. There's a sort of fragmentation now that there's not there. The stars are not the same. Like even the top 20 when it comes to music doesn't exist anymore because it's downloaded and streamed, and there are certain little groups in each corner listening to their particular type of music. There's no unifying things like there's no Elvis Presley anymore. There's no there are no the Beatles anymore. There's manufactured pop bands that last for maybe 6 months, One Direction or whatever the hell it is, and they make a fortune. But the Spice Girls, Jude, will you want the Spice Girls played at your funeral? What the hell? They made a fortune.
You're showing your age.
But hold on, the classic glass, Jesus, Jude, plastic, so does plastic. Somebody told me one time. So I'm sort of Jude. It's like I'm sounding like my father now, but I suppose maybe we're looking to recapture our lost youth, or reflecting on lost youth. Maybe reflect on the mortality. But it does seem right now there seems to be a lot of people falling off the cliff of life.
I think they're falling off always, but maybe we have more time to notice them now. Although I must say, I would agree with you, there were a number of very notable people that died. And I suppose of people we would admire who died in the past year, and even more recent than that, the last few months. Well, I suppose, as I say, it's the two things. One is that death comes to everybody, not just some people, everybody. And the second thing is that our day, when we believe, this was real music, that was a real footballer, we're falling into the trap that we used to criticize our fathers for, that, they thought that was real music then, not this rubbish today. And now we're seeing the same thing, So I
was actually making a slightly bigger point on that, or at least I hope it was. Jude, the world has become fragmented. There's there is no Elvis Presley type figure today. There is no Beatles group anymore. Like there's people come and go. Like there's no like Elvis Presley went on for about 25 years, 20 years.
He was the exception. I mean, he wasn't the only one. It lasted for years. But most pop singers, most of them, you look at the charts from the 1960s, and you'll see groups. And, well, they might have had a couple of hits, but, they were never heard of after that. So most pop singers, they come and go very quickly. There's a few really good ones that sort of last. I suppose there's some good ones that fade as well. But that's sort of the nature of pop music, I think.
But look, the Rolling Stones are going to be coming out in summer frames, surely.
Yeah. You see, that's the thing. If you hang in there too long, you begin to sound ridiculous. And Bob Dylan's voice is shot completely for ages. And he still insists on singing, I think.
Well, he never could sing.
Oh no! Don't say that. Oh God! He had a funny voice.
He was a brilliant writer, but japers, I don't know if I was locked in a room. Could I listen to him all night?
Well, some of the early, I saw him in Dublin when he was there. I don't know what year that had been, about 64 or something. And God, it was great. I thought he was very good when he was playing just his acoustic guitar. I thought he was very good, certainly in the early days of Just Like a Woman and things like that. He had a funny sort of a voice, the back of the throat voice, but at the same time, it had a certain quality to it. Yeah, in a way, you won't agree with this, I'm sure, but it's kind of like Frank Sinatra. I've never thought of Frank Sinatra as being a great voice, but I think he was a great singer. You know,
Yeah.
his voice wasn't necessarily all that melodious. There were
Yeah.
others that were more melodious than him, for example, Jim Reeves.
Yeah.
But I think Frank Sinatra was a much better singer because
Yeah.
he was able to interpret the words. He was able to give meaning to them.
Yeah.
And it would have the song as a result would have an impact. Whereas, well, I really liked Jim Reeves. In fact, I saw him in Dublin too. They sort of flow over you. They're so nice, you know?
Yeah. But I suppose it's like this, and we probably could drop the subject afterwards because it was quite obvious me and you don't know a lot about music. But it's like Ronnie Drew and Luke Kelly. Which do you prefer? Like, give me Luke Kelly every day, but there are those who would bat all day for Ronnie Drew.
Well, that's true. Maybe we'll move on from this, but you know the famous comment somebody made about Ronnie Drew singing? He said it was like the sound of coke, a piece of coke caught under the door.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
or the cat being dragged under.
Anyway, I'd say finally that there probably aren't any more dying now than there was before, but they're still dying.
Yeah.
Okay, move to another topic, political one this time. David McWilliams, is it in today's Irish Times? Maybe?
No, it's Saturday.
Oh, Saturday, yeah. And he's pointing out, as he does periodically, actually, he's married to a northern woman, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe a Protestant woman. And he's pointed out that only 2 counties in all of Ireland are now Unionist. And that there are more, what was it again?
He said there are more now. I'm not sure he's got conclusive proof of this, but he says there are now more immigrants living on the island of Ireland than there are Unionists. Now, I'm not 100% certain that, but like for instance, I know about 15 years ago they were saying there were more than 200,000 Polish living in Ireland. Jude, I am originally from Letterkenny, and I grew up in a small monocultural type city or town. And if I walk down the street in Letterkenny now, every second or third person I would meet is definitely not native, and you can distinguish that by the color of their skin. Using that even and you look at the cars, the number of there's a couple of quite big sort of high tech companies there, and it's quite obvious a lot of people have got employment there. So like the sort of one dimensional Ireland, you know, white Catholic and whatever else you want to describe it, that's definitely gone.
Well, but so, that's good. I think that's good.
So what McWilliams is saying is the whole issue, you know, the centenary of Northern Ireland is coming up, and there's been all sorts of opinions on it and so on. But the reality is now that 30 out of the 32 counties are certainly not Unionist, that the demographics are changing rapidly, both north and south. And Jude, see this whole thing as we speak about the EU, like how all that pans out could seriously affect not only the unity of Ireland, but the unity of the United Kingdom. Because if the Scots get a bad deal, you can bet your life the growth and independence aspiration will certainly be there.
Yeah, I think that's only in addition to. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the Good Friday Agreement says that there'll only be a change in the constitutional status of Northern Ireland whenever the majority get vote for it. And when you read that figure that there's only 2 counties in Ireland, maybe Northern Ireland, you should say, because that's what matters, who are Unionists, the only 2 words I can think of was tick, tick.
Yeah.
You know, if I were a Unionist, I would be very worried. Incidentally, did you know that on this very day in 1918, Sinn Féin won 70% of the seats in a national election? And of course, that was thwarted.
I remember. I didn't know it was on this day now, but I didn't know they'd won 70%. That's where but that's from which they claim their legitimacy, that they said they were and that up until the Good Friday Agreement was, I think, the last All Ireland plebiscite of whatever word you want to use.
Well, I always think they stretch things a wee bit when they talk about the Good Friday Agreement as being, a plebiscite of all Ireland. The fact of the matter is that the South was asked a different question than they were asked in the North. It was a different thing they had to respond to. In effect, it was to, sanction the Good Friday Agreement, but they definitely didn't have the same wording or anything like the same wording in the south as they had in the north. I think it's the question is not just how you'd react to that. Well, I suppose, yeah, let's deal with that very quickly. I said I react to that with the words tick, tick. How would you react? Would you be pleased? Would you be saddened? Would you be fearful, hopeful? What?
No, Jude, I'm an Irish nationalist. I believe, by the way, I'm a Republican with a small R. I believe in peaceful, but I believe of government by the people, for the people, of the people. I do not believe in Ireland, and this is not an anti-Brit or that. When you say something like that, everybody tries to jump on you. I believe it should be in every country in the world that the people who live, pay taxes, and and are natives of that place should get the right to decide. There shouldn't be outside interference from some nation which has really got very little stake in that country other than their own advantage. So as far as I'm concerned, no matter and if I lived in Letterkenny, I think I should just boil it right down to sort of drill down. The people who live in an area should decide. Hey, there shouldn't be houses over there. You shouldn't be allowed to dump there. You should, whatever. The same for a country. The people who live there should get total right to decide how that place is run.
Well, to a large extent, that's the case now, except that the Assembly and Stormont can't raise taxes and have foreign policy. So
but hold on, Jude. There's a whole thing there. When it's it's nearly a coercive coalition. I don't know what's the term for it. Plus the fact,
compulsory.
Compulsory. Well, right. But here's the thing. See, to say that the Northern Ireland is a government, it's not a government. They're given a fixed amount of money. They can't raise the tax, and it's done on a sectarian, almost head count. You can dabble around that whatever way you want, but that's basically what it is. Now, that's no way to run a country.
I agree with you. And when I hear them talking about the four nations that constitute the UK, I mean, I have to say I have a little chuckle, an inward chuckle at the fact. I'll be honest. When I see that, and you haven't been honest, Pat, you haven't given me what your reaction is. You've done it.
I'll tell you something. No, but I wouldn't kill anybody for it, and I wouldn't,
Well, what is your reaction to that now? What is it? What is it? Joy? Sadness?
I'd say. No, I'm quite happy. I am. Before I die, I would like to see a United Ireland.
So is it an inner yippee?
Yeah. I'm going shapers. It's very simple. The Northern Nationalists, contrary to certain Dublin 4 types, have had a raw deal in Northern Ireland for a very, very long time. And a bit of fairness and a bit of recognition and a bit of respect, in my humble opinion, would go a long way.
Okay, what do you think could be done or should be done in the light of that quite stark fact that 2 out of 32 counties in Ireland are Unionist? Yeah. What do you think should be done now? Is that possible to be built on? Can you build on it?
Jude, I was part of a project. Now I was a very minor part of a project. There was 2 other guys, one of them, Paul Gosling, and another guy called Colin McKenna, and we produced a couple of books. And it's basically the whole idea was to put on a ground floor for discussion. Now Paul Gosling is the guy. Now the great thing about Paul, he's an Englishman. He doesn't really have a sort of skin in the game as much as other people. He's very much an economist and a finance guy, and he sat down cold-heartedly, if you want to use that expression, and looked at the facts. And Paul produced an excellent book, and it was sent to every TD, every MP, every councillor in all Ireland. So there's a basis there, and I was part of that. And Jude, the reality is that everything's shifting, and I think we should start talking now about Irish unity, what it means for us, what it means for Unionists, and all the rest. Jude, it would be ridiculous if 2 counties could hold the other 30 to ransom in perpetuity.
Well, it's also, you could also argue that for the last 100 years, it was ridiculous that 6 counties were able to hold 32 counties to ransom for that time.
Yeah, I'm not arguing about that. But even within the context of those 6 counties, that has now changed.
Yeah. I think that's the key one. The change that has come within the 6 down to 2. And I think, here's my suggestion. I think Sinn Féin or somebody, it doesn't matter who does it, somebody should do a time-lapse thing of the 6 counties and the population, Unionist, Nationalist / Republican, starting maybe 50 years ago, and give the figures for each year and show that on a map. You can do that electronically now. And then say, there's clearly very serious change happening here. This has real implications. And then they should say to Unionists, we'd like to have discussion. We want to hold citizens' assemblies. We want them to be as representative as possible. Will you look? You come with us, because after all, you're marking 100 years of Northern Ireland, and we're concerned as what the future is for Northern Ireland and for all of Ireland. And look, it does seem to us that you, who believe in the existence of Northern Ireland, unlike us, that you've got a problem. You've got a problem. Look at it.
Well, the bigger issue is, the Southern government seemed, particularly Micheál Martin. He said, you've said it before now, but the whole one, planning to fail, or failing to plan is planning to fail. I think the Dublin government, I don't know, maybe it's because we've had 30 years of the Troubles and all that, but they seemingly don't want to address this. But the reality is, that the demographics have changed. That all has to be managed. The Dublin government seriously sat down now and started work on this, come up with a 5-year plan or something in regard to unity, have real discussions with people about them, academics, politicians, civil servants, and all the other people, and sort of start addressing us and say, where do we go from here? But this we muddled our way into the Troubles because the Unionists didn't address the nationalist question. We could do the same again. Now, I don't think there's an appetite for another 30 years of war on either side, be it Republican or Unionist. But hey, the other side of the story as well, I don't want Unionists coming into United Ireland feeling angry, upset, and forced, like the nationalists were shoehorned into Northern Ireland.
Exactly. I agree.
There's not much point in replacing one alienated and disenchanted group with another.
Couldn't agree more. But my point is, I'm a bit of a pragmatist, I think. I want to know what can be done now. Well, we could do nothing now in a way. Well, we could do something, I suppose. But given that we're in lockdown, we're sort of stuck for the next 6 months or so. But after that, I really do think that the most obvious step is to if it's not political parties, maybe it's just civic nationalism, as we saw at the call, set up citizens' assemblies that are as representative as possible of the different factions or parties, or whatever you want to call them, throughout the 6 counties. And have them meet and have some agenda and get them to talk and see what the problem is, what they see as being the problem, what do they see as being an offer. Because that time-lapse thing I was talking about, where you're boiling down from majority in 6 counties to majority in just 2, I mean, it's obvious how that's going to end. If there was I suspect if there was a border poll held now, that nationalists would probably win it. Some other people disagree, but I would be in favour of holding it in about 4 years' time, 5 years' time, or even.
But Jude, you were asking, what do we do now? What we do now is actually start doing what you're after saying. Put things in place like citizens' assembly, make plans. Get people together, get an expert group. The Micheál Martin's, that sort of share Ireland thing he's put together, the Department of the Taoiseach. Sometimes I wonder, is that to kick the can down the road rather than actually help to bring it about?
I totally think it's kicking the can down the road. And that's why I think it's very important that citizens' assemblies being maybe put together, not necessarily, maybe not by Sinn Féin, in fact, maybe by civic nationalism or that group that put together the thing in the Waterfront Hall. Because what's good about that is it puts pressure from below. It puts grassroots pressure onto the politicians. And if there's one thing politicians like, that's being re-elected. So if you could have a movement that was a grassroots movement, which was saying, what are the questions we're faced with, what are the challenges, what are the real problems, and get people talking about them and planning for the future, that could only be it's the only way forward, actually. And
Go ahead.
Have the civic nationalism people given up? The people who did the waterfront hall thing?
No, I think COVID came along, Jude, and it interrupted a lot of things. Niall Murphy, who's one of the main lights, got COVID very seriously, if I remember correctly, and various other. And I think that there's no you can't have any civic gatherings and so on. So I'd say a lot of work might be going on the background. But Jude, getting back to the more pragmatic thing, he said there, the first rule of every politician is to get himself re-elected. That's the first thing. But the other thing as well is, Jude, the realities are that everything has changed, and unless that is addressed big time, this sort of running away from it is not solving the problem.
Well, it's a recipe for disaster.
And it's a recipe for disaster. And I think, those of Jude, by the way, just know that I think we talked about it last week. This thing about the social media war going on down south between Sinn Féin and Fine Gael.
Yeah.
Like, you can see the contested space there right away. Like the Fine Gael basically seem to want that anything to do with Irish nationalism in the past was bad. Now, I am seriously of the opinion, and I'm being facetious here, but I'm also being serious, that eventually the black and tans will be the good guys, because history has been rewritten so much. Now, having said that, I'm not saying we should be celebrating narrow water or the deaths of anybody else either. But this narrative of West Britism, and I keep coming back to it, but Jude, it is now, I think, a major issue. And the reason it's a major issue is the rise of Sinn Féin.
Yeah. It's just selective condemnation, selective outrage. I think that's what annoys most people, like yourself and me and a lot of others, I'd figure, where you say, narrow water was disgusting, whereas Kilmichael was a great victory. And
you were celebrating the deaths of British soldiers. The parachute regiment killed people right, left and centre, and they never apologised. But we should. That's what...
that mindset. Let's come to something that's linked with this question of, only 2 counties having a majority of Unionists. And that's the third item we had on the list. The centenary of Northern Ireland is now, and they were talking about it on Radio Ulster earlier, Radio 6 Counties earlier on today, and they had Gavin Robinson on, and I'm trying to think, I'm going to check some of the things he was saying. He was saying things that he says it should be approached. He was urging nationalists and company, everybody, to approach it in a positive spirit, and a spirit of generosity. And he said, this is Christmas, a time of good cheer. So he was urging people. They apparently have put together some sort of, I don't know, it's kind of like that video that they did for Easter 1916.
Where they never mentioned the reason?
Yeah, I don't think it's quite, sort of. It's a branding exercise. Yeah. And they have 2 people's faces on the front of it. Now, you tell me who they are.
I haven't a clue. Well, I presume Carson.
No, this is very open, you see. Seamus Heaney and Mary Peters.
Jesus. Yeah, I can see how that's been represented.
Mr. McArt, why did you take your Saviour's name in vain when I told you that?
God. No, Jude, when you start saying there about Gavin Robinson, that's entered in the spirit of generosity. Jude, by the way, I am a Saviour Unionist. Be my guest. Go and celebrate, and God go with you. And I mean you no disrespect, but if you seriously think a nationalist is going to celebrate Northern Ireland, 50 years of total discrimination, 50 years of bigotry, 50 years of sectarianism, 50 years of a police force that was not representative, a B special. Jude, I could keep going for 10 minutes, and I am not even the biggest Republican you're ever going to meet. If I can do it, and so on. Like, I think about 1986, I remember, I think it was the Roundtree Foundation did a survey of the poverty levels across Britain, and 3 of the top 10 were in Northern Ireland. 2 I think were in Derry. 1 of them might have been Strabane, and I think maybe 7 or 8 of Welsh Belfast. So, and they are all Catholic nationalist areas. If you can find something to celebrate in the middle of all that, let me know.
But listen, Pat, that's all the past you're talking about. Here's these guys. You said you were expecting, maybe Carson might be on the front. And the point of the matter is that it isn't politicians. 2 people, one a Catholic, well, he was a humanist, but Catholic in origin, and the other
Yeah.
Mary Peters, who was born in Liverpool, I think, but you know,
Yeah.
very much a Northern Ireland woman.
Yeah.
So she did not be applauded for that.
Yeah. By the way, that's
Instead of talking, you called it. Wait a minute, Mr. McArt. You called upon the name of your savior when I said those two names. What
yeah.
behind that blasphemous cry?
Because Jude, that come on, you know as well as I, that's revisionism. It's sort of soft soap and all. You know, it's sending out. And by the way, I think it's great, but like you know, Jude, that's not what I don't think that's what the face of Northern Ireland. You know, for the foundation of the state was not Mary Peters and Seamus Heaney.
Well, Seamus Heaney, well, Crawley said this today. Now, whether he's telling lies or not, I don't know. He said that Seamus Heaney, in his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, referring to himself as Irish, but also as Northern Irish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, I'm a Northern Ireland man. So, you know, shouldn't we be celebrating the, you know?
Did he not say my passport is green?
Well, he did, but he also said no glass of ours was ever raised to toast the Queen. And then later on his glass was raised to toast the Queen.
Yeah. But well, you see, Martin McGuinness met the Queen as well, and Martin. So I presume there's this sort of reaching out, and Martin took it. Possibly even on the eyes of some Republicans, maybe too far. I don't think so. I admired him tremendously for what he done. But having said that, Jude, like Northern Ireland, like let's drop the facetiousness. I would contend that if you're Catholic, Irish, and nationalist, there has been very little. There has been very little to celebrate, and over 100 years of the Northern state.
Well, that's what Michelle O'Neill and that's what the SDLP said. There's nothing to celebrate. They were invited to sort of become part of this sort of a group. I think Centenary Forum, Northern Ireland Centenary Forum, was set up last September, and they didn't join it. They wouldn't join it, and I said, Michelle O'Neill said, there's nothing to celebrate. But the people who are involved with it, like Gavin Robinson, say things like, "We will use this opportunity to hear untold stories, to promote Northern Ireland on the world stage, and to celebrate its people, culture, traditions, and enterprises, including representatives from business, tourism, voluntary, community sector, and political parties."
Right.
Isn't that fair enough?
And Jude, like, all right, I'm going to name drop two things. Well, one thing, I met Martin McGuinness about the year before he died. I was out walking, I met Martin one day, and I actually said to him, you know, what's it like? And he says, Pat, it's basically like walking through treacle. He says, there's an arrogance still in the Unionist community that they are the masters and we are the servants. Well, right, that's yeah. And he says, like, I think he used the analogy that it was like they owned the hotel and we were the sort of the guests. You know, the other thing is, and then you think everything's changed, and then along comes Arlene Foster and makes remarks like crocodiles, and you sort of go, wait a minute, you know. Have you ever listened to Sammy Wilson, the EU spokesperson, when he goes on RT radio? Like, he just basically starts off with a climax insulting the Republic and works his way up. You know, So like, I don't know how much has changed in attitude. That's unfair to a lot of very decent, moderate unionists, and I'm being deliberately in a way but sort of inflammatory here. But you know, Jude, I love. Sort of all those people who have stayed silent for years, where are they? You know, I would love them to speak out. Does Sammy Wilson and Arlene Foster and people like that and Gavin Robinson, do they represent the true spirit of Northern Ireland, or are there others who do?
I don't think he does. Well, my experience of Unionist people, actually very, very decent. Some of them very good people, you know. In fact, they're good company, some of them. So, that begin to sound very condescending. I don't mean it to be that way. But I don't think they're very well served by the politicians by and large. That's the truth.
No.
I'm going to end this particular session, Pat, with regard to this thing of the centenary by saying two things. Calling on nationalists or Republicans to celebrate, and they make no bones about it, celebrating 100 years of Northern Ireland, is like calling on the native people, the first people, the Aboriginal people of the United States, of Australia, of New Zealand. It's like asking them to celebrate the coming of the white man. I know that sounds extreme, but think about it. Think about
Yeah.
it. You're talking about people who came in. I mean, we're talking historically here. Took bloody land from Irish people and moved them off, as is happening in Palestine at the moment. And we're now being asked to celebrate something that is contrary to, in my view, Irish democracy, which is the existence of this northeastern statelet, which Charlie Haughey 40 years ago called a failed state. In fact, I really annoy people now. Somebody who doesn't kick with the same foot as me sees this. I think the celebration is you might view the celebration the way you might view the birthday of a 100-year-old man or woman. One consolation is they won't be around for much longer.
On that note, we shall leave it.
Okay,
Good luck, Jude.
Thanks very much.
Good luck.